Thank you again for joining us. We are thrilled to be presenting Sono Osato's first exhibition with the gallery. A little bit about Sono. She was born in Baden-Baden, West Germany, and grew up in several places as her father was in the Air Force. True?
Army,
excuse me. My wrong branch, military for short.
he was in the military.
Yes. She went on to earn her BFA from Arizona State University in Tempe in 1983 and her MFA from the California College of Arts and Crafts, now known as the California College of the Arts, in 1986. Over the course of nearly 4 decades, it'll be 4 decades next year. It's kind of a shocker, isn't it?
It's a blur, basically, yeah.
She has had residencies at the Jurassic Resident Artist Program in Woodside and at the Contemporary Art Center for Herbalie in Portois, France, and been an affiliate artist at the Headland Center for the Arts. She has received major grants from Change Inc., Time Matters, and is a 3-time recipient, which you're the first person I know who's done this, of receiving the Pollock Krasner Foundation grant. So she's got it 3 times, and it's just like, wow. That's an achievement.
Thank you.
Her paintings and sculptures can be found in collections of the Fine Arts Museums of San Francisco, the Oakland Museum of California, the Berkeley Art Museum and Pacific Film Archive, the Laguna Art Museum, the Rosa Center for Contemporary Art, Stanford University Law School, and the Contemporary Art Center in Cincinnati, Ohio. So that's you. I got to know Sono's work when at my first job out of college, which was at the DeRosa Center for Contemporary Art. Rene DeRosa acquired 3 pieces of Sono's work from her over the years while he was alive, and I was just absolutely spellbound by them. And that began my relationship with your work, and then later I met you, and we've been thick as thieves ever since. For those who don't know, Sono's very early paintings were extremely thick. They were 2.5, sometimes 3 inches thick off of the canvas, full of tar and beeswax and asphalt and found objects at times, as well as over the years they got added in. And around 2005, the thickness kind of dissipated a bit.
Right.
And you got into the Babylon series, which were these beautiful red paintings where all of the shapes that you see in each of these are the gears and guts of adding machines and typewriters and other relics of the mechanical age. And they just completely encrusted the surface of those paintings.
Right.
How did that transition happen, to getting into the gear parts as the language for your abstraction?
It was a couple things. One thing is I'm a very peripatetic painter, of basically working through an idea or an internal dialogue, and being more committed to the idea and trying to discover it through just painting and painting and painting to find it than a marketable or a branding style. It's more about the idea. So I've always been very, very inspired by deep history and layering and slow looking and multiple meanings and these, that kind of openness, and universality as well. So there was this, I've always been interested in archeology as well, human history. So I read an article one day in the Times about a tsunami survivor from the 2004 tsunami. And it just really moved me because the very thick pieces and very topographical pieces were inspired by, I was out in the headlands, so I was very inspired by very deep geological history. So, most artists have an internal story in their head. They have an internal narrative that they follow that is not necessarily what other people have to see, but what motivates them. So this is sort of what I'm talking about. So basically I read this article and this man was standing there, and all of a sudden this 20-foot wall of water hit his village, and he got swept up in everything. And it went inland for probably 15 to 20 miles and then washed out into this deposit of silt with the destruction of everything. And I was already interested in the found objects as a form of writing, from the origins of writing. And it really struck me that it was this sort of palimpsestual deposit of sacred texts, which also relates to middens, archeological middens, which is one of the things that this show is named after. So it started to shift, and I just started to imagine the topography receding, and that the archaeology and what was going on underneath it, like the deposits that washed out and the debris, started to come up. So I was just painting through that. And then it started to be underwater. But this was just, I don't know if I'm making any sense. But you just keep moving along, keep moving along through what you're doing.
So that's kind of the origin of the Diluvia paintings, which this
Yeah.
is one here, this is the purple one here, the orange in the middle,
Yeah.
and that light purple one as well.
Yes, it is. And I should go in a little bit more about the objects themselves coming out of typewriters and adding machines. It's not that I'm trying to make some kind of parallel statement. It's that, first of all, they're just beautiful. Somebody asked me if it was fun to tear apart machines. Of course it is. And you start looking at these things, and it was just interesting to me that shapes in analog engineering, which is actually really beautiful, have like a petroglyphs, where there's things about them that are very, very primal and universal in terms of the origins of our written languages, and that are universal globally. So using that metaphorically, I just started playing with it in that way. Yeah.
And so, it's like with the line work and all the Diluvia pieces, you really get that sense of flowing and
There's a turbulence, It was in a way putting myself in that position, but it's also painting being a very visual medium. It was seeing, it's trying to see what other people see and take those different views.
Yeah. Now you're evolving out of Diluvia into the kind of Midden pieces, which are these kind of more centralized pieces that, the edges are less crowded and the centers are more. And, a Midden is where you're digging into the ground at an archeological dig, and it's just the layer of things that you find as you dig down and discover things. So, but when we were talking earlier, you were saying it's like you were floating along with this, and then it's like your point of view changed, and now you're looking up through the Midden. So talk about that a bit.
Absolutely. Going for over 35 years in my interest in deep time and archaeology, it's a way of looking essentially at the same phenomenon of layers, which is the degree. I mean, the thing about Middens, the debris that the tsunami survivor experienced, they're stories, So, and that's what they actually do by going layer by layer. So it started topographically, and then for some reason that tsunami story really kind of hit me, that it was the same phenomenon, but then to actually go down underneath and look up. So again, it's a visual idea that I just kept pursuing. Yeah, and the thing about also, Middens is a form of storytelling, and this kind of, I can only think of the word coagulation, of things, of ideas melding together. Also, it's looking at things through the epoch of my time. When we talk about archaeology in deep time, it's also how small we are in our own time, but it's what we're experiencing. And one of the things that I've been feeling very strongly, and you've written very well about, is essentially, in my lifetime, I'm one of those last generations that have witnessed this, but the basically almost like a tectonic transformation of somatic experience and visual intelligence and emotional intelligence being usurped and taken over by a digital device, and watching that. So there's also those elements too of the analog engineering, and then having that happen, but also what does that have to do with this tsunami survivor, which is one of the things that you pointed out in your statement of really actually literally feeling. That's what was happening in the Babylon experience, was that the topography was receding and what you were seeing was underneath, which is Diana's here, and you always remember the piece that I did with you, but it's basically you're in turning, you're digging up what's underneath.
Yeah.
So it was a similar action where I was simply just receding, but I was doing it as a painter where I was imagining it and seeing it. And I also really do, this is another thing I did want to say, because I know we should get back to the party, but this is one thing that I wanted to say, which I feel really, really strongly about, and several other artists have made this similar comment in terms of a viewer's communion with an artist's work, is that this is my internal narrative. It's I say that I spent years pursuing an idea or an internal, that's just motivation. Like you. I love that answer. You're like, I did it because I felt like it, I did it.
Had to do it.
I did it because I thought it was cool. I did it because I wanted to. I did it because I wanted to find out, Basquiat, somebody asked him some esoteric question, and he just looked at him, a long pause, and he said, I felt like it. And I'm like, good answer. So essentially, artists don't have ideas. None of us have ideas. They have us. So part of it is that service to try to figure out what it is. And then Roberta Smith, who we all really love, artists don't own the meaning of their work. So what I'm talking about is like what turns me on, and I go into the studio. This is cool. Now I want to try this. What about that? It's that internal narrative that is my little engine. But it's not something where, as an art viewer, you have to go, aha, I see it. It's like this is very esoteric knowledge. It's like whatever hits your gut. It's a egalitarian relationship, in my opinion. So it's fun to tell you the stories, but it's not something that I expect you to go, oh, I get it now. That's what it is. It's like your response is as genuine as anybody else's. So
thinking. Last thing I will say is, in thinking about the way that technology has evolved in the last 50, 60 years, from the mechanical age to the digital age, and now we're entering the AI age, which is a new form of digitization. One thing that actually kind of struck me is that after we are long gone and this civilization has crashed and so forth, if some future species or some future civilization comes back and starts digging in our garbage piles, because that's usually where archaeologists find the best stuff, is in the garbage pile.
yeah, well, it's like a form of text. It's storytelling. Yeah.
That it's like if they dig up a smartphone or something like that, they won't know necessarily what it does, but it's like, in many ways, these are the things that are, the mechanical things are the things that are actually going to last.
Yeah.
And it's like, a lot of the digital world will just completely disappear. Things that matter to us are just illusions, electrons on a disk. And this is much more permanent and much more lasting. So it's something that's really important to mention. So.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Sono.
Thank you. Yes.
Why did you stop using the tools? Like, what was the motivation to move on?
What tools?
When you actually put on the real tools on there?
Oh, the gears.
Oh,
I think she means.
right.
Sorry.
Yeah, the gears.
It was kind of a dissolution, like, and that's also partly why it's called Deluge. it is this sort of disintegration of something, perception of looking at something and it's slowly starting to just follow where we're not quite sure where we are, we're not quite sure where our feet are. The feeling of floating became very important to me. But you're still like looking at a similar phenomenon, but through a different way. Mm-hmm. And then also I just have to say, I think a lot of artists agree with this, is that some of it is just formal in the materials you're working with, and you're looking at it and you do something, oh, that's really cool. Like hanging out with you the other day, you tried something and you went, wow. See, that means a lot. You put something down just by doing what you're doing, and you look at it and then you go, wow, that's really cool. That gives me an idea. It's one of the most simple things. It's not this esoteric thing. It's just we get a thrill out of that process. With your process, which are, your paintings are really, really luminous. And it was interesting to me that you started out like copying movie, when looking at your paintings, they have this really gorgeous luminosity and color of how you move it through, as if you were looking at a movie cell, in a way. It has this atmosphere where you feel very present by the way you're able to move the colors. And painters have affinity of how you kind of move colors so something happens perceptually and you don't really know what the hell just happened, but it worked. So a lot of it is, child's play in a way. I mean, we're little kids.
I gotta ask you, speaking of color, can you talk about the color because these paintings are just insane and gorgeous around how you use color as part of it?
It's through experimentation and sometimes trial and error and moving things around that kind of luminosity of layers. I often start out with a very simple idea, and as I move along, things kind of start to happen. And also, like several artists have said this, where they leave for the day and they feel pretty satisfied, and then the next day they go back and the painting looks completely different. I mean, it's a completely different painting, and it's like it's the same painting that was there when I left last night, but I wake up and come back the next day, and it's like a completely different painting. Because we're different every day. So it would shift a lot until it finally landed.
George, what do you have?
Yes, George.
I want to compliment you very, very much because you've mastered the way one color can make a painting better than it is, and another painting will make it worse than it is, and you make them the best that it is with the way you use your color.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's a lot of it's. A lot of it is basically the juxtaposition of color, the interrelationships between colors, which is part of what you're pointing out.
But you have the talent to know what's good and what's bad.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay. I don't want to stand up. I have a lot of respect for a ton of different artists who do all different kinds of things, so I'm not that comparative. Anyway, any other questions?
Thank you so much.
Okay.